Hi everyone, welcome to today's event. We're just waiting for a few more people to join and then we'll make a start. Hello everyone, welcome. As we're just waiting for people to join, if you don't mind putting in the chat your name and where you're based, that would be fantastic. Welcome everyone, we're just going to make a start shortly. We're just waiting for a few more people to join and then we'll make a start. Amazing. Okay, great. We'll make a start then. Welcome everyone to today's Reactor event. So today's Mac management with Microsoft Intune. Today we're going to be joined by Somesh. So just quickly a little about the Reactor Code of Conduct. So just make sure that everyone is using the chat like kindly, be aware of others, be friendly and patient, be welcoming and respectful, be understanding of differences, and be kind and considerate to others. Just to introduce myself, my name is Rianne and I am the program manager for the London Reactor. So what is the Reactor? The Reactor is a hub for technical learning sharing where students, developers and startups can connect globally or with a local community. We have a number of reactors located across the world. Here are some of them that we currently have. If you want to find out more about our reactor and what we do, you can scan the QR code here, or I'll put the link in the chat shortly. But we provide events, training, and community resources to help students, developers, and startups build on AI technology and more. So if you want to find out more about what we're up to or what events we have coming up, please feel free to scan our QR code to find out more. Like I said, I will put all the links in the chat. I'm now going to hand over to Somesh for today's event.
Am I audible now? Yeah. Hi, thank you, and good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. As for the time zones, so I'm Somesh Pathak. I'm Microsoft MVP in Intune, having 16 years of experience. And today, we will be talking through across Mac management with Microsoft Intune. Microsoft, we have been hearing from them like this is the year for Mac management with Intune. So that's the best topic for now because we are growing with a large number of Macs coming into Intune. So in this session, I will cover starting from the basics, what is Mac, what management with Intune, what's Intune, how Intune has evolved into with Mac management, and how we can see the future shaping up. We'll also cover a few deep dives, few demos, and along with the community resource too. So let's get started. Brief about me. I'm like I said, 16 years of experience in IT, working with eventID Netherlands, and as a modern workplace manager engineer, and I'm having like my Intune MVP status for last 2 years. I'm MDM geek, like always like playing with my Mac, testing new policies and new stuff. And for the spare thing, I have my wife's Mac, which I always like to play with, and I'll show the demo on that one today. For the questions, we will keep at later stage because we have a lot to cover within 1 hour. So I will appreciate if we can keep the questions. I will try to answer all questions at the end of the session. So a brief agenda for today, we will be covering a basic overview of Intune, what Intune is and how it helps with end-to-end web device management, what specifically Mac management with Intune does, recent updates to macOS management. So there are some major updates to macOS management. We'll touch upon platform SSO because it's a hot topic nowadays, and we see like people are really struggling with platform SSO, or we call PSSO. So we will be diving deep into PSSO, how it actually works, how it works behind the scene, with a live demo of configuring platform SSO on a Mac here. We'll also touch upon MDM migration because it's now like recently we have seen that a TechNet article was published by Microsoft where we speak about how we can plan the MDM migration thing, how to plan it, how to roll it out with the control view strategy to a big bang level. As well as we'll touch upon the community resources. Like we have several community, we are present on LinkedIn, we have Reddit and all over the world. So we'll touch upon the community resources also. To start with, Microsoft Intune overview and value. So we all know what Microsoft Intune is and how it adds value to device management. So it's basically a unified endpoint management solution, which we cover all devices, like we cover iOS and iPad OS, Windows, Macs, Android, Unix, Linux, and Chrome also. So it's basically one solution which we have everything in one place. You don't need to have multiple platforms to manage multiple devices. Just one unified solution and you have everything in your plate. It's cloud native solution for MDM and MAM. So gone are the days for hybrid and all those things. So it's cloud native. We talk about cloud native mobile first. So when we talk about cloud native and mobile first, Microsoft Intune is the one-stop solution, which helps you deliver the value. The core capabilities here include like device enrollment, which we use for corporate devices. We can use for BYOD also. You can use for configuration profiles, compliance, management, and security. It's tightly integrated with Microsoft 365 suite of services like Defender, Sentinel, and all those things. So it's like you have the core capabilities in one MDM solution. It simplifies app and device management. Like if you don't want to enroll the BYOD devices, you want to have MAM only, then it's up to you, like how you want to plan the strategies. If you want a full-fledged MDM solution, then Microsoft Intune helps you with that. It's integrated tightly with Microsoft Entra ID, which was like previously called Azure AD and Defender for Endpoint. So with one solution, you have security also covered, and with the appropriate licenses, you can keep your all devices secure and compliant as per your industry requirements. Specifically talking about macOS, it's a streamlined application deployment when it comes to application. It comes to device enrollment. If you're using Apple device enrollment, that is AD. It gives you a zero-touch support for enrollment. It gives you all the profiles that you want to configure, like configuration profiles. You have compliance policies like Gatekeeper, File Vault, and everything. And it gives you ease of business for deploying your VPP apps. Also, for example, if you want to deploy LOB apps, you can deploy LOB apps. You have now support for pre-script and post-script. So everything in one umbrella, which is Microsoft Intune, a unified solution. And talking like this, because we are now focusing on Mac devices today. So with Mac devices, like Microsoft Intune has really evolved a long way now. It was like last year, we can say that Microsoft Intune was really coping up, but now we can say it's a leader in Microsoft management for Microsoft devices of Apple devices, sorry. And you call it any support, and we have a support given by the Apple for the platform here. So what does it brings for Mac management with Microsoft Intune? So it's a platform first approach to macOS management, which means that it's secure, it's integrated, and it's cost effective Mac management. So when we say cost effective, it means that you don't need to buy any other solution for managing Macs. Intune is the only one solution which you can manage with all devices. So you don't need to buy any third-party MDM for managing your iOS or macOS devices. Now Intune has all the capabilities. It supports DDM, it supports zero-day support for almost all configuration profiles. So just one solution and give you secure and integrated device for a corporate environments also. It gives you Apple devices which are enterprise grade ready, which means that if you have the proper licensing, Intune P1 is sufficient for managing all your Mac devices. You don't need to go for P2 for managing Mac devices. So if you want like everything covered with the proper appropriate licensing, you are fully covered with using Intune with Mac devices. It aims for unified management of macOS along with other platform, which means that you need to have only one pane of window, which is Intune Admin Center, and you can have all your devices controlled by a single pane. So you don't need to hop around different multiple MDM vendors for iOS, macOS, and different MDM vendors for Windows. So just one pane of window, and which helps you across all devices. Recently, we have seen that the MDM capabilities have increased with new features being rolled out. When we saw that Apple released Sequoia, and there were many new demands for TDM support. So Microsoft was giving the zero-day support for almost all features. So specifically for macOS, for example, DDM for software updates, now it supports all the functionalities. You have support for Apple Intelligence also, which you can control on your devices, and it's deeply integrated with Entra ID and Defender for Endpoint. So if you want to secure your devices end to end for corporate policies, you have Defender, which is silently installed on the devices, tamper protected, so the devices remain secure, and users cannot play with the devices because you have such a strong policies delivered by a settings catalog, and the devices are fully locked to enrollment. So it's hard for the users to tamper with those devices. When it comes to MDM Plus capabilities for app development and deployment, you have all the capabilities. For example, you can deploy VPP apps, you can deploy PKG applications, DMG, and the top of it, you have the Microsoft Auto Update MAU integration, which gives you capabilities and enhancements to control whenever you want to update your Microsoft native applications, that is like Office, Teams, and other OneDrive, all applications. Which channel you want to configure. For example, you say that I want to configure a pilot channel for the early adopters. I want to have a static channel for other users. So it gives you ease to control the MAU, and as well as you have the option of pre-script and post-script scripting, which you can use for PKG applications to easily configure how the applications get installed on the device, what happens after the install, what happens before the install. So using this advanced app deployment, which is MDM Plus capabilities, you can now control how the apps behave on your macOS devices. And with the recent development, like when you enroll a Mac, nowadays what happens is that the sidecar agent, that is the Microsoft Intune management agent, is the first to get installed on the devices, which means that if you're using await final configuration, the device is really fast to act on the device management. And before the user lands up on the screen, you have everything configured for the device. It gives you additional functionality to configure the setup assistant screens if you want to modify them. There are certain community tools available which you can modify, use to enhance your user experience. So we'll touch upon those later in the coming slides. So how does it enhances like more? For example, we say that we for when we compare to Windows, when we talk to the corporate like example CTO level and the security team, we say that all right, we are rolling out Windows devices, but we are also rolling out macOS devices. We want that the macOS devices should be at the same level of security as compared to Windows. So there were earlier perception to users like or the corporate teams that macOS devices are not enough secure. They can be easily tampered with. But if you are following the zero trust principle for even for Mac devices, you can see that you can control each and every setting on the Mac devices. It's not that thing that earlier that devices were easy to be compromised with. And if you are using like the configuration plist properly, if you are using the zero trust model for Mac OS devices, you can control each and everything for the devices which are rolled out to the corporate users. It depends upon what, for example, if you want to use like CIS level baselines once, CIS level baseline two. So depending upon which CIS level baseline you are going upon, Intune fully supports you to configure all those settings. It depends like what industry you are supporting your Macs. For example, if you're in finance industry, you will have different baselines. If you are in a manufacturing, you will have different requirements. So the requirement is that we fully analyze what type of requirements we have from a corporate or from a security perspective, and we align our security policies accordingly. And using the Intune settings catalog or sometimes template, we can easily configure whatever we want to for those devices. If some settings are not available, we have option to upload custom configuration plist, and those will also help us to align to the security requirements. And since the coming to productivity across Apple devices, there is a single pane of glass which we call setup assistant. So if you want to configure the setup assistant screens according to your requirement, for example, we say that don't want to show users the terms and conditions. We don't want users to show Siri. We don't want to show users to configure the location services. So for example, it allows you Intune allows you to easily configure the setup assistant screens, that which requirements or which settings you want to control to enhance our end user experience while enrolling those devices. It's totally up to us how we want to enhance those screens to give us better end user experiences. So coming to the big slide, like the recent updates to macOS management with Intune. With the starting like from 2024 mid, we have seen that Apple has been drastically releasing new features every time, and all the MDM vendors have been saying that we are on top of it. But when we compare other MDM vendors with Intune, we have seen that we always have the 0-day support for almost everything, which was released by Apple for the production ready environment. So the first thing that was a big bang was the platform SSO implementation. So there was a long demand in industry that we want platform SSO for Mac devices. So it's basically it's now it's there's a mistakes. So it's not it will be soon generally available in coming months, where it will be enhancing your security and user experiences. With platform SSO, you get enhanced protection on the devices because it has four options. Which, for example, if you want to configure your password-based authentications, which allows you to sync password authentication. If you want to use secure enclave, which is comparable nowadays, people compare it to Windows Hello Business. So you can have a hardware-based attestation if you want to use like smart cards, and also allows you to use smart cards. So depending upon what type of authentication you are aiming for your organization, where it allows you to configure those authentication for your platform SSO. It's streamlined out of the box experiences, so you don't need to modify anything in the UI or something like that. It's native Apple UI, which allows you to simple workflow. User just need to follow the workflow, and it's easy to configure right like within a couple of minutes, and does not require any rocket science to configure it. The documentation from Microsoft is quite streamlined, and it's quite pretty clear that if you follow those documentation, it will be helpful for you to configure the platform SSO in a couple of minutes. The benefit of platform SSO you get here is that the users don't need to sign in multiple times. Earlier we have seen that, for example, if I want to access Teams or Outlook, I was required to sign in multiple times because of the authentication thing. But when you're rolling out platform SSO, the token is present and you just need to sign in once, and all the authentication goes single sign-on. It's totally silent here. And if you want to configure platform SSO, it's not possible to configure as a custom plist. You have to use Intune settings catalog to configure the platform SSO, which deploys the payload on the devices, and then it can be configured within a couple of minutes of the users. The requirement is minimum is macOS 13 plus, but recommendation is macOS Sonoma, that is 14 plus, because there were certain keys that was deprecated in 13. So the requirement or the minimum recommendation should be that you are using macOS Sonoma 14 plus minimum as a OS level, and the latest company portal version on the macOS devices. Then the second thing is like we have seen that massive improvement in settings catalog for streamlined configuration. So earlier when we used to go to Intune Admin Center, we saw that templates were available where we have restrictions, configuration, and other things. But now with the most of things are now migrated from templates to settings catalog. So settings catalog is like we have been using in Windows also in iOS and Android. So it's basically much more centralized repository. It gives you a benefit of just searching the settings, and then it populates all the settings that are available. So you can easily choose between which settings you want to configure, and they are directly mapped by the Apple payload thing. So how it works is that Apple publishes the YAML plist at on the GitHub. They have open repository, and Microsoft transform those plist or those YAMLs into the settings catalog that we see on the web thing. So they are directly transformed there. And if you go through the YAML list on the Apple GitHub, you will see that documentation is exactly same as that we have Microsoft Intune. So it's very easy, it's very native to use. It simply transforms all the payloads keys into a settings catalog, which you can simply read that, okay, this setting is doing this thing, and it's easy for you to understand that what you are deploying on end user devices. Settings catalog now also supports DDM, that is declarative device management, that's the latest thing in Apple devices, which makes the devices more fast to respond back to the MDM servers. Earlier it was like MDM server, you need to talk to the devices, they need to send back to command, and that I want to send something to you, the device will acknowledge and reply back. So it took a little bit of time while responding and communicating between the MDM and the devices. With the development of declarative device management, it's now immediate. The device is continuously polling the MDM server, that is there something new for me? Is there something new for me? Rather than waiting for the MDM server to give back devices to command. So now the communication is immediate. The both are in continuous sync with each other, and when you deploy anything by DDM, it goes quite fast to the devices. And the other advantage of using setting catalog is that it gives you more granular control like templates. So you can see what, for example, if you search for software update settings in settings catalog, it gives you all the granular control, like what all settings are available there, a drill down sort of thing that you want to configure with which settings you can select and then deploy them. It now covers everything like from Safari to Safari extensions to software update, file vault, encryption, firewall, everything is now within settings catalog. And so slowly and slowly you will see that almost all those settings that were available in templates and other those things will be migrated to settings catalog. So it's easy to use, it's more user friendly, and I would seriously recommend that if you are still using templates, then do a study that what settings are available in settings catalog and migrate those things from templates or configuration profiles to the through settings catalog. It gives you more easy reporting also, and it gives you more flexibility to deploy and control the settings on the devices. And if you're using Microsoft, and if you're using Copilot, then you can use Copilot also to evaluate and ask questions like what the setting is doing for me, and you explain the setting for me. So it gives you more experience, user experience from the admin's perspective, that what does this settings catalog do for me for using Microsoft Copilot. Another thing is like recently we have seen that we are now moving to MDM plus capability for advanced application management, which means that now you can sub deploy all type of applications like VPP, web clips, LOB, PKG, and the now we have also seen that recently in company portal allows you to uninstall and reinstall the applications also. And the best advantage that I have seen recently is that using the pre-script and post-script. So using the pre-scripts and post-scripts is like you can easily configure what the application is doing. For example, I want to deploy Zscaler on my all macOS devices, right? Or if I want to configure Defender. So earlier we need to use package everything in a PKG and deploy it on all devices. But now with with the support of pre-script and post-script, I can easily configure like, okay, if this version of Zscaler is installed on this devices, detect and then uninstall the previous version and deploy the new version. And the post-script will validate, okay, this has been installed correctly and the services are running, and then you get a reply back to the Intune where you see that everything was successful. So if you are using custom applications and if you want to control certain features, then pre-script and post-script will really help you to control the application. So applications, it's like something which you do for custom application with Windows also, like you do the scripting thing. Here it's quite simple and quite straightforward. And advantage here is that you can also export logs, like what was the application doing on this. You simply give one click and then you can export the logs here. Declarative device management, I just touched upon it. So it's a modern protocol for autonomous configuration. So autonomous here means that earlier there was a polling, there was no polling between the device and the MDM channel. So devices were waiting for the MDMs to send them something back, and then they were acknowledging, yes, I have received the command, I am implementing this command, and then they send the status back to the MDM thing. So the technical flow is still the same, but the how it becomes autonomous is that rather than the device waiting for the MDM to send something, the device is continuously asking the MDM server that, hey, I want to see if there's something new for me. So it's more proactive, it's more autonomous, and it's more status reporting is much more flexible here. So it gives you much more faster deployment of policies, much faster deployment of configurations, and it gives you a real time reporting also. So it's much more autonomous now. And the key principles here is like declarative configurations, predicates, and real-time status reporting. Predicates are still to be deployed. They are still not with Intune, and I don't think any other MDM vendor is also doing. So once predicates are there with this MDM thing, it will be actually real-time, so that you can configure what rules you want to source. Predicates will be sort of rules basically. For example, if my device is iOS, for example, running iOS 18, I want this application to be installed only on this one. So this will be the future of DDM, where once Microsoft rolls out predicates, then we can have more granular control on the settings, which we want to control via DDM thing. Almost all the DDM settings that have been released by Apple are now fully supported by Intune in macOS 14 Plus via settings catalog. There are only, I think, one or two settings that are still not developed, that are still in development by Apple, and there are some bugs. For example, Safari extensions. So there's something bug from Apple side, so they are working on it, and that will be very soon fixed. Apart from this, I have like almost every DDM settings are currently working, and we have full support from Microsoft for those settings also. Zero-day support. This is something which is really best with Microsoft Intune, because we have seen like from iOS 16 it was, and with macOS Sonoma 14, that whenever something is released, we have immediate zero-day support. With zero-day support here means that something which is recently released and has been tested and successfully rolled out. So, for example, we have seen that for Apple Intelligence, when this Apple Intelligence came into picture, people were asking that when this will be rolled out with any MDM vendors, or they were asking for custom configuration plist. So Intune was there with providing zero-day support for Apple Intelligence. There were certain settings that allowed you to control AI thing on your Mac OS as well as iOS devices. Now, almost all AI thing for Mac OS devices and iOS devices are supported by Microsoft Intune. You can control which settings for Apple Intelligence you want to control, which you want to roll out, which you want to block, right starting from the environment of the device. So and it was not only the Apple Intelligence, like for software updates also, and whenever Sequoia was there. So we have seen that zero-day support, and the zero-day supports help us to actually plan and roll out the devices much before we roll out them to the users. So as an MDM as admin, it helps us to evaluate some, for example, something new is coming in Sequoia, we want to test it first. And if an MDM vendor is giving you zero-day support, which means that it gives you plenty of time to test and then roll it out to end users, rather than directly rolling out to users and then calling it back. So with the zero-day support, as an MDM admin, like I would say, like it's best for us to test things, what's working and not working as on Intune as well as Apple thing, giving back feedback to Microsoft that we have tested this thing, it's not working, or it's working, and then it helps them to work upon the feedback and get the implemented for the corporate things. Uh, Continuing with major updates, this is something really exciting and something new for device protection, which is called managed device attestations for enhanced security validation. So this was for Acme, basically Acme thing, and Microsoft Intune has started rolling out the support for the tenants slowly, and gradually it's been rolled out to almost all tenants. Which what does it mean? That it means that your device will be attested to verify that it's a legitimate device. It has not been compromised. It's a part of zero trust architecture basically, where the device tells MDM that I'm not a corporate device. I'm not a compromised device. I'm a legitimate device. And if the MDM get a signal that the device has been compromised, if it has been like try to tamper with it, with jailbroken, or something hardware has been changed, then the access to the corporate resources will be immediately blocked. You don't need to build any infrastructure for it. And the Intune Admin Center, you will see that the Acme thing is now visible in some tenants, and you can see that the managed device attestation for your iOS and Apple devices will be soon visible. If it's not visible, then it will be visible that attestation has been tried or not. And when you enroll any device in Intune, you will see that apart from SCAP, now Acme certificate will also be getting delivered to the devices. So it's not possible to export that ACME certificate. It gives you more additional security because this ACME certificate is bounded to your secure enclave, and it's not that easy to compromise your secure enclaves. Like TPM, it's not easy for you to compromise the TPM of a Windows, and if TPM is compromised, your device is compromised. Similarly, if your secure enclave is compromised, which means that your device is compromised. So secure enclave basically is hardware-based attestation, which means that your hardware is attested and it's foolproof. And if your hardware is verified, then Intune says that okay, I'm giving you access because you are verified. So it's directly a transition between it's a talk between ACME server, which is hosted by Microsoft Intune, and then MDM from Apple side, that they attest that yes, this device is valid, this device is not compromised, and we trust this device. And on based on the trust of the certificates and the signals and the key we received, we are allowing you to access the corporate resources. DDM, we just thought like it leverages the DDM architecture basically for software update on macOS 14. It was started rolling out from 14, and now it's getting more smart and smart. So you can control which time you want to configure your DDM settings, software update for your users. You can configure like what the notification user sees, what the URLs are in the software update when the user sees. So it's totally customizable. You can customize what the time the user should receive the notification, and it gives you more granular control how you roll out the updates to the users. So it's not that you want to push the software update, for example, a major update for 15.4.1 is coming. You can easily control that now for 15 macOS 15.4.1. I want to push it to users like in this time zone at this time, in this time zone at this time. So you can control users according to time zones and locations, and with a certain communication to end users, like for example via SharePoint or Yammer, you can easily educate them that we are rolling out macOS, for example, major version, and how this will be impacting you, how you will see notifications there. And it's more user friendly. User will see a notification that your organization is rolling out a software update for you. They know that the software update is pending for me, and they have a timeline also that this is a deadline by which they have to restart or install their Macs. And if the deadline is passed, then it forces restarts your Mac also. It's exactly like the Windows update. The rings that you configure for Windows update is exactly same that you configure rings here for software update rings. So it moves away from the traditional way of Apple updates to the not software DDM based software updates, which gives you more declarative commands, which is more robust and more autonomous, and devices and users get a more better experience here. Await final configuration. This helps you to enhance the user experience basically. So if you are not using await final configuration, which means that you are increasing the time to the user lands up to the desktop once the Mac is enrolled. The benefit of using await final configuration here is that everything is installed on the Mac before the user lands on the desktop. So if you're using await final configuration, we have seen that the device is immediately after remote management authentication you do on the setup screen, the device start polling the MDM servers. And for example, it's Intune here, and start asking like what's there for me. All the configuration profiles, all your settings are applied there rather than user landing on desktop and then installing everything. So it makes the user more ready when he's on the desktop rather than he's waiting. Okay, my device is enrolled now. Now the setting is getting enrolled. Now I'm waiting for another setting. I'm waiting for another app. So everything is ready, and the user is ready to use the device quite fast here. And so he's much more early productive as compared to the previous experience where users were landing on the desktop and they were waiting for the applications to get installed here. So if you're not using this await final configuration, please do use it, and also use it along with the user creation, which helps you to pre-configure the user using the enter ID user principle, where username is pre-filled there, and you also have an option to lock if the user is allowed to edit his username or not. I'll show you in the upcoming demos this one also. So this was something what was major till now, what was exciting in Microsoft Intune and Mac management. So the second agenda of this, like platform SSO, a deep dive on it, like how platform SSO actually works upon in a Mac, and how you can easily configure it. So the platform SSO is basically it's based upon on your enterprise extension, which is called a single sign-on extension. So it's built upon the enterprise SSO plugin, so which is delivered by your MDM agent to your device. So it acts as a broker between your Microsoft Entra ID, that is your IDP, and it helps you to enforce conditional access. How it enforces you, because if you are enforcing platform SSO on a device, you say that okay, the user should be authenticating or configuring platform SSO using password-based authentication, right? Until unless user enrolls the device and registers his device in platform SSO, the device will be marked as non-compliant, and the user won't be able to access any corporate resources because of conditional access. So it gives you a more stronger control that if I'm rolling out platform access on a device and user does not configure it properly, the access to corporate resources will be blocked. It depends upon what level of configuration we want to use. Recommended is secure enclave because it's more of a hardware based authentication. So that's the recommendation from Microsoft also, and that's for the recommendation from other sys guidelines also, baselines. So try to go for secure enclave if you are configuring platform access. So it basically integrates your SSO app extension. So there's no separate configuration needed. There's a single configuration profile you can see in settings catalog, where you configure all the settings which we want to deploy for platform SSO, and it's got immediately installed on the device. And once the user is done, then he's ready to use his SSO extension. You don't need to log in every time on for Office applications, for example. And so the minimum requirements and prerequisite for platform SSO is that you should have minimum version of macOS 13 Ventura, but recommended is Sonoma because there were certain keys that were deprecated in Sonoma. So the minimum requirement is I would say should be 14 plus, so that you have all the keys that are actually working there. You should have a minimum latest version of company portal installed so that the company portal is able to have everything in place and it does not lack any features. If you're using Google Chrome, then you need to have separate SSO extension deployed, which also you can deploy via settings catalog. If you're using Safari and Microsoft Edge, then you don't need any separate configurations. They provide all single sign-on extensions which are supported by them, and it's seamless there. And users must have a permission to join devices to Microsoft Entra. I think this is the basic thumb rule when we install any devices. We allow users to join them the devices there. And it's secure because when you start up the PSSO registration, it prompts you for MFA, so it's secure there. And the devices can be like enrolled via ADE, they can be enrolled via direct enrollment. You can have a BYOD devices and you can push PSS over there also. This was actually like flow here, but I will walk you through this one. So basically how it's behaved is like this is what it works behind the scenes. So here is like a macOS user, for example, consider like I'm a Mac user here, and we are trying to access any resources. So then there are four parts in it. Like first is a macOS user who is the actual user using the macOS device. Second is a single sign-on platform there. Then it comes to identity provider, and then the company portal app. The company portal app is which is taking everything from you and acting working. So when I open my macOS device and we see the pop-up there that the PS is a pop-up. So I simply click on this, and then company portal loads the extension there. So the user is requesting access to an app, and the company portal like redirects back to the single sign extension, which we call SSO extension. Redirect backs me to IDP for authentication, where I'm putting my password like on company portal. So it asks me that okay, you want to access anything, but before I give you a token, so you need to validate who you are and what you possess, right? So redirected back to authentication to my identity provider, which in this case is Entra ID. So when I provide my password and credentials to Entra ID, then the Entra ID gives me a authentication interface where we use a UPN and all those things. So I enter my credentials, I validate my credentials using my MFA, and I send back to Entra ID, okay, that I have now entered my credentials. Now it's up to you to validate me. So the IDP, that is Entra ID, will validate you that yes, this user exists, this is the permissions he have, and whatever the keys are required. And then the Entra ID passes back the SSO token to the single sign-on extension, which is natively on the macOS app. So the macOS platform having the single sign-on extension loaded into it, we validate the token which is received from the Entra ID. Based on the token, it will validate, yes, this token is coming from IDP. I trust this IDP, I trust this token, and this is valid. Based on the token, the access will be granted back to the user. Now the user, which is me, for example, okay, now I have the access token. I will go back to the company portal, like, hey, I got the token now. Now it's you to validate that. Okay, now the SSO extension on the Mac, the device itself has validated everything. Now it's your turn to accept the token and give me the required permission. The company portal will check the private keys and the public key and the cryptographic token on the which we received from the IDP, and which was validated by the single sign-on platform extension, that now both of these keys match together, everything is in place. I trust this token, I trust this user, and then it gives you back the token and confirm the token validity. So and then you have access to your device, right? Then you have access to corporate resources. So this is how it actually works in behind the scenes. That when for us, it's simply like we click on the pop-up notification, we provide our credentials, and then the wheels goes on. But behind the scene, this is something which goes actually like this, that it's a secure communication between the SSO extension which lives on the device, and then the identity provider, that is your Entra ID, and the company portal. So all of those four things continue together, and the token is validated continuously. So token life is something which is also goes there. Token is like renewed automatically depending upon life. During this registration, if the token is not present, then every 4 hours it will be retrying back again. So you see that sometimes you try the registration but something fails, then it will retry within 4 hours or after 4 hours that okay, but I'm still get a token from the identity provider and the extension has to validate the token. So it's a continuous cycle which goes on between all the four parties here, and this is how we actually get access to the PSSO thing on the device, right? But still, this is very high level. Again, like, it's easy for me to explain, like easy for us to understand. Okay, there's some this flow going on between the devices, but how do we land up onto this thing? How do we see that? Okay, I can see that token is registered here, registration successful. Sometimes it fails. Also, we see that red dot. Okay, token registration fail. Need to retry. So again, there are like it's a APIs which is controlling this thing magic behind the scenes. So the first thing is always that you have to register a device, right? So when we click on the notification for platform SSO, we are asking the device to register itself. So the device registration starts, and the user notification we receive the prompt there that okay, now you need to register yourself. The SSO extension registers the device with the IDP, and then second thing is you receive that now you need to register yourself as a user. So there are two parts in it. First part is always the device registration comes first, and then the user registration. So when we see the token of SSO, we see that there are two parts in it: the device registration and the user registration. So if unless both of these are successfully completed, you will see that PSSO is not successfully configured. If any one part of this fails, it will say that I'm missing a device token, or for example, or I'm missing a user token, for example. So both of these tokens have to present on the device until unless that the PSSO thing will not be fully configured. So once both of these are communicated successfully, then the device will say that everything is successful and I have now all the tokens with me, and PSSO is successfully registered, and we see the green dots in the user settings there. This is again a more deep dive that first what happens here. So this is like when you call the SSO extension, the device asks the SSO extension that I want to register with my IDP, and it tries to present the registration controller view. So the flow here is that register the device with the associated IDP, that is enter ID, provide the login credential to the back to the platform SSO extension, and once this is completed, then it passes on to the second step, which is user registration. So we see that the screen that is the we are asked by the VSSO screen that I need to provide my credentials. So this is a part of this extension which asks users to provide your credentials now. And when you provide a username and password, then second part the thing comes is authentication. So once authentication is successful, then the complete cycle is in sync, and then we see that everything is now successfully completed. Now I would like to show you some demos here. I have a Mac connected. Rana, is it possible for me to present the complete screen now?
Yeah, you have to add your screen and then I'll bring it up.
Okay. Share screen. Entire screen. Is it visible now?
Yeah, it should be visible now.
Okay. I'm having multiple screens, so I'll disconnect this one. Okay. So I have this Mac, which is currently which is with me right now. I'll try to connect it again. Yep. I hope it should be visible now. So this is the first screen that we see when we see that the platform SSO is requiring me to register the.
We can't see your screen. I can add your slides, but I can't see your share screen. You need to share your screen again.
Okay, I'll share again. Is it visible now?
Yeah, it's visible now.
Okay, so this is a Mac which is just next to me, and here like we see this prompt here. So registration required. So this is something which I was showing you in the flow in the PPT PowerPoint, that this is the first screen that comes here where we are asked to register for the platform SSO. So and this thing is totally customizable, like depending upon the configuration profile that you configure in Intune. So if I open my admin center here, so this is like the way for configuring your platform single sign-on. There are some extra keys. I'll remove them, but there are certain keys which are basically required as a mandatory for you to successfully deploy platform SSO. So extension identifier, and this is clearly documented in Microsoft documentation that what keys needs to be present for deploying your platform SSO. So extension identifier is the identifier for the SSO extension here. As we can see that it's called company portal mac.sso extension. So this is the extension which is basically playing the role for providing communicating between all the parties that you saw in the presentation, right? And this is something which you can put like your corporate identifier name. For example, this is my company name, so I put a IRL corp account. If you want to put your company name, you can simply put a company name that users will see during the pop-up that you want to register with this company. Addition groups is not working yet, so I'll skip this screen. Right, so if you want to create users at next login, for example, you have a scenario where your Macs are being used between shared between the users, for example at service desk, where you want that when the shift changes, another user comes in and they can use my Mac. So rather than creating a userless device, you can also use this option that it can easily create users at next login. So you simply need to enable this key that enable create user at next login, and use shared device keys. So these keys help you to allow the Mac using platform SSO to create new users. So what happens is that when a new user who is having a license and who is having a appropriate permission into, he simply comes to the screen of a Mac. He enters his UPN credentials and he log into the Mac. Then the Mac will guide him to the setup a session screen where he will be asked to accept few, like for example location settings and all those settings, and then the platform SSO single sign-on will pop up, will ask him to go through the registration again. Registration token should never be changed. It should be device registration only. Team identifier should never be changed. It's basically the team identifier for the company portal from Microsoft, and type is redirect. URLs, there are certain URLs which you can exclude. For example, if you don't want your data URLs to include China, US, or other URLs, you can simply remove them. And these are the basic minimum keys that are required to deploy platform SSO here. If I remove these ones, right, these are the minimum keys that are required you to deploy platform SSO. And the most important thing is the user authorization mode. How you want, sorry, not this one, the authentication method, that how you want your users to authenticate on platform SSO. So we have three options here, like password. If you want the password, which means that once you select this option, the user's Entra ID password will be synced to your Mac, which means that they will use their Entra ID password to log in and log off from the Mac every time they want to use their Mac device using PSSO. Secure enclave means that your password won't be synced to your Entra ID password won't be synced to your Mac. The local password will be different from the password that you use to log into your Entra ID. But the benefit here is that it's hardware based attestation. The device is more secure, and there are very less chances to device for getting compromised. Right? Smart card is the most secure. That if you want users to allow them to use smart card using platform SSO, you can also use smart card authentication. For example, if I want to use UB keys for my user, allow them to use UB keys for login to my Mac, I can also allow them to use smart card based authentication. So these two last two ones are hardware based authentication, so they are more secure, and that's more recommended by the best ways use a secure enclave key here. And yep, and then you can deploy to, so, and the recommendation is to deploy if you are deploying this PSSO profile to your to user based devices, then recommendation is user groups. And if you are deploying it to userless devices, then it's recommended to assign to the device based group here. And yes, so this is the screen which walks you through the platform single sign-on registration here. So if I click continue, so now this is my secure enclave based authentication. That's why I'm being asked to authenticate using a fingerprint here. So see the first step that if you see on the previous screen here, it asked me for a device registration. I'm not sure if I'm able to move this one or not. No, this cannot be moved. So that it was just a flash of second there that asking me to first register for the device. MFA right now. Sorry. And MFA 87. And network issues looks like. Okay, once more. Stuck on the screen, I believe. Oh, it's not working. This we can also use if you totally want to go passwordless, like I'm using my passkeys here. Hopefully this works. Yep. Now in the scenario, the device is trying to communicate to IDP using the credentials that I have provided, that validate the credentials and provide me the token. And the token will be sent back to the SSO extension to validate based upon my user credentials. Then the next part will be by creating the user registration token on the device. Yeah. So this is completed. So if you are using secure enclave, you will see that this screen comes because it allows you to use company portal as passkeys. If you are using password authentication, then you will not see the screen because this does not allow you to use passkeys for using company portal. So it's the registration is complete here, and if I go and close, configured here, and if I go to general and users and group, and I see that my registration is completed. So registration is registered and tokens present. So this is which if both are green, which means that everything is successful, and I can see that my authentication method is secure enclave key. If you want to change, for example, if we decided if we are using password authentication and we decided okay we want to shift from password authentication to secure enclave key, we can easily change in the existing configuration profile from one method to another method. At the user side, it will be like they will be prompted again on their screens to complete the PSSO registration. So you just need to go through the same process again, and then the authentication method will be changing automatically if they are successfully registered with PSSO. I think here. And then coming back to slides, where we were. Okay. And yeah. Okay. I'm not sure if slides are visible. And can you help me with that? Because I'm not sure if slides are visible because I cannot see them. Okay, I present from my screen. Okay, so we were at that screen. Yep. So coming to the last part of the session, like the MDM migration here, I'll switch it here. I hope it's still visible. Ryan, are you there? If you can confirm me because I'm not sure.
So confirm. We can't see your screen again. I can put up this. Can you see this?
Yeah, okay. Because I'm trying to present the slides actually, not the screen
Yeah,
now.
I can add the slides back on stage. They're back on stage now.
Thank you. Right. So the last part here is the MDM migration thing, because now for example, we want to move from one MDM to another MDM. So there are certain strategies that we need to follow for migration from Jamf, Kanji, any other MDM to Microsoft Intune. So I've divided into two parts. First is migration from Jamf to Intune. Second part is Intune to Intune. So it any migration, be it from for example Mac, iOS, Windows, is requires for a careful planning, because we are trying to migrate devices which are being used by end users. So we need to be very careful what we are trying to do. A proper user communication is required. It's required that you do a proper planning and execution. Plan something which is feasible for end users, which gives them minimum downtime, which does not wipe their data, and it gives them a best user experience. They should not feel that okay, I need to set up my Mac again. I need to do everything again. The migration should be that the users just take 15-20 minutes out of their time and the Mac is silently migrated. The data remains as it is. There's a very good article recently published by Microsoft which talks you about a complete guide here on how to migrate your Macs. We'll put this in chat here. That helps you to carefully plan what each thing is step by step. Recommended is that you follow that guide for Microsoft TechNet. Is published last week only. That it helps you easily plan coming from any MDM to Microsoft Intune with minimal downtime, with minimal user data loss here. It really gives you the best user experience. Technical steps would be that you need to first point your Mac from one ABM. That is, if your ABM is having Jamf, then you need to point your Mac from Jamf to Microsoft Intune. That's the first thing that you need to do as an MDM admin. Second thing is you wait for your device to sync in the company portal. Intune Admin Center. Once you see that every devices are reflecting in my Intune Admin Center, then you have a green signal, right? That yes, my devices are now pointed from one MDM server to another MDM server in Apple Business Manager, and we are good to go. Then it comes to your like user communication. You need to prepare documentation, your user communication, that we would be starting soon your MDM migration according to your communication strategy and your planning. And then you can utilize the tools. There are tools developed by Microsoft. Neil Johnson created a very nice script which does the job easily. You can easily create deploy it from Jamf to Intune. You just need to push that script from Jamf server and can easily put your Mac from Jamf to Intune within a couple of minutes, and there is no data loss, there is no downtime. There are community tools also available for doing this. I have created a tool which is called Jump In, just migrate and upgrade to Intune. I was planning to give a demo, but we don't have time for that. But it's available on my GitHub, and you can easily use that tool. It's help you from any MDM to Microsoft Intune. And there are other third party MDM migration tool also available in the community. So there are many tools available which helps you migrate from any MDM to Microsoft Intune. Second scenario is like merger and acquisition. For example, you say that I have a requirement that I want to migrate Mac from one tenant to another tenant. I don't want Mac from Jamf to Intune, but I have Intune to Intune. So that's also possible, but it requires the same strategy, that you point your Mac from one ABM from in the ABM from one MDM server to another MDM server. You do user communication, you plan your things, you do a test rollout. Once you successfully test rollout, then you do a massive rollout in phases. Again, that script from Neil Johnson is really working fantastically. It helps you migrate from Intune to Intune without any user loss. My tool, another tool, also does the same job. So it's up to you what you want to choose. But these tools are developed as a community thing. These are best effort basis tool, and go with these tools which are recommended by Microsoft, so that you have the best thing in place and you get the best user experiences. But the good thing is that always plan in a phased manner, or don't do a big bang approach. Go through documentation from Microsoft, that how what is required and what is not required, so that you can plan accordingly. You don't disrupt the user experience, because user experience is not good, then whatever MDM you're using, they won't be happy with the Mac devices, right? Best. So when we're talking about macOS devices, which increasingly landscape in enterprise level, we also see that we just discussed this in community resources. We saw that the community is growing really fast. So we have a very good resource of community tools. We have active community Intune capabilities. The community is like expanding more on LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn presence on by Microsoft there. We have Reddit, and the shell repository for Microsoft really is doing the job. You have all the scripts available from Microsoft on the shell repository, and if you are on Slack and all those things. So there are many tools, third party tools developed by community members. There are tools developed by Microsoft also, scripts and tools which you can use on day-to-day basis for helping your Mac management activities much easily. The recommendation for as a Mac admin for you is like that I also do on my own, that I always follow Microsoft Mac admin community on LinkedIn. I always follow the Mac admin LinkedIn. There are many things which users face. It could be that we are also facing the same situation and someone is answering those questions, and we can answer those questions also. Microsoft has a very good presence on LinkedIn on the Mac admin community. So if you are there, if please ask your questions there. It's a very good engagement there. If you are not, then do join that community. Microsoft and other community members are also available on Reddit. We have Reddit channels on internet, Microsoft Reactor events like this, and Microsoft Tech community forums where you are free to ask your questions and answer the questions. Knowledge based resources is good, like you always follow Apple's own knowledge base because it's latest. We have the two security guides. One is Apple Platform Deployment Guide and Apple Security Guide, which helps you understand what's going behind the scenes, how Apple works on these MDMs, and how other MDM vendors works with Apple on these things. And always follow Microsoft Intune official documentations. If you are following someone's blog or articles, but it's good, but always rely best on Microsoft documentation because the official documentation. If you need support, you can quote those documentation to Microsoft that I was following these articles, but I'm not still not able to understand. Can you please, or you can log a ticket if you're struggling with those things. For example, you support an advisory case, you have a knowledge case accordingly. So always follow official Microsoft documentation because they're extensive and they're the latest thing to update in your environment. And they are community driven website also. We have community driven website, we have community driven blogs because they also help you develop certain tools and latest in the technology. So always follow certain blogs and tools so that you are aware of the what's going in the industry, what's going in the Mac management world here. So that's right on time. Like the conclusion here, like Microsoft Intune is the only one solution for macOS management. If you have Microsoft Intune, you don't need any other MDM solution. It's a one-shot umbrella, one-stop thing. Be it Mac OS, be it iPad OS, be it iOS, Windows, Android, Unix, Linux, Chrome. You don't need to go for any other MDM solution. Just one thing you need to buy and proper licensing, and you will do your job. It offers best in class integration for security, platform specific features like you can automate everything using logic apps, Teams, webhooks, APIs, whatever you want to use. It's give you all the options to automate and configure requirement as per requirements. We have very active community provides valuable resources, LinkedIn community resource, Reddit, and TechNet. So you get all the resources there. People are ready to help you as and when required. Careful planning is always required. If you are planning for migrate from any MDM to Microsoft Intune, always do a careful planning. Always plan ahead. Do a successful migration, then using user knowledge base, and use your knowledge for effective management. Yeah, that's all from my side for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ramesh. If there's any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat now. Otherwise, like you said, you can use some of those resources to help you find further information. But thank you so much, Ramesh, for today's session. It was very informative. I know that we can all take a lot away from what you shared today. But I don't think we have any questions, so we'll close the session here. Thank you so much for today's session. Just a reminder that this will be live on our YouTube channel following today. So it will be shortly uploaded so that you can watch it on demand. But thank you all so much for joining, and we'll see you in the next event. Thank you.
Thank you.